Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Today I would like to share with you an interesting topic regarding Industry 4.0. And for the past couple of years, we have heard about this term Industry 4.0. But then we also heard about this another term, what we call the IR 4.0 or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And then suddenly people talk about Society 5.0. With all these numbers that we have heard, what is the differences between them? In fact, there is some differences between all of these terms. But the question is, where are we now when we have been talking about all this 4.0 or the 5.0 thing? So today, I will share with you the opportunities that we will have with this new era of Industry 4.0. What are the main challenges? And maybe let's take a look at some examples of how we can use in this era. And maybe some example within the facilities management. So depending on who you are, the audience themselves, why are you interested in this IR 4.0? Or the core technology of IR 4.0 is actually the Internet of Things. It depends where you are, which sides of the fence. For example, if you're actually at the end users, you feel that you want to solve some problems that you are facing now within your organizations. Maybe you want to deploy the Internet of Things, deploy this technology within your organization, but you don't know how to start, what's the best approach. The question is, should we do that in-house? Or maybe you want to outsource this to other people. Second, if you are the vendor, or you may be a new startups, you feel that the existing products have already matured, and you want to expand the business, your business, and maybe your new revenue stream. Maybe technology like this can create new products. And also, are you a system integrator or are you also a facilities manager? So you might require a new skills in this particular era because the technologies is not only a single technology because it comprises of many technologies. So how do you value add these existing customers that you have with new services, which is more advanced than before? So this is maybe an opportunity for you to listen today, which I'll be talking about on the Industry 4.0. The weird thing about Internet of Things is that some people have only heard about this term 1 or 2 years back, maybe some of you 5 years back, but the father of IoT, Kevin Ashton himself, have coined this term of Internet of Things since 1999. That was 21 or 22 years ago. So why only suddenly that we scramble and try to really understand these new terms? So funny, right? So it depends on certain countries, the adoption rate might be different from the others. The awareness about the new technology is also different among other countries. So the best way for us to see where is Malaysia, when exactly this hype suddenly comes in, and increasingly you see these new things is being trying to embrace within our businesses. The easiest way to understand this is through Google Trends. I love Google Trends because if you search for Google Trends, you look at Malaysia and look at the terms which people normally Google. So whenever there is new technology comes in, people try to Google and understand, hey, what is IoT? So the word IoT is one of the things that we like to Google. And then this new term, what we call IR 4.0. When exactly Malaysia try to start the Googling the term IR 4.0. IoT itself, in Malaysia, we started to Google maybe around 2014. You remember when Kevin Ashton mentioned? He said that it's beyond, it's 1999. And we only heard about this or tried to understand about this in 2014. Are we late? That's a question. And then this IR 4.0 thing, or the Industry 4.0, it is in 2018. If you still remember, when we launched this Industry Forward Strategic Framework, that was in end of 2018. And suddenly we will be, trying to understand what exactly is the country is trying to, to boost up the whole economy, especially in the manufacturing sector. So the government came out with a blueprint called the Industry Forward. The most important thing is that a lot of organizations feel that they are comfortable with the current business operations, but they are wrong. What they need to do is that every 3 to 7 years or 5 to 7 years, they need to revamp or reinvent themselves. Because technology comes in cycles, especially in 10-year cycles sometimes. So whenever there is, new technology comes in, it will disrupt a lot of things. Their product, their operations, their businesses themselves. So for example, Boston Consulting Group, they have looked at the last 50 years, only 90% of the companies are still in existence today. So it is very critical for us to revamp ourselves and relook what we have now. Are we offering something which is already obsolete or not? Take a look at the things that we are doing nowadays, especially when the things become digital, from analog to digital. That one is really disrupting us. Remember the days when we take photos using these, what we call this, film cameras, this physical Kodak and all that. That was the days of analog. But nowadays, you just use your normal smartphones to do that. And the days that we listen to things, I'm not sure whether you are still using this cassette recorder, cassette tape. The last time I bought at Maidin, I'm not sure whether how many years ago, but I'm not sure whether there's still this cassette tape again. But nowadays, we listen to Spotify, right? It's all digital music have been streaming right to your ears. And remember the days of this VHS recorder? I don't keep it anymore, but some people don't, even the new generation don't know what exactly that is. But we have been watching our videos on YouTube, on Netflix, on iFlix. So that change disrupt the product themselves. So companies like Kodak have been disrupted. Companies like Blockbuster have been disrupted by all these new technologies. So when we talk about this era of industrial revolution, there are 4 industrial revolutions that we are facing. And I put the term revolution. It's not evolution. If you are talking about evolution, we are doing something which is very slow and gradual transformation. We are not doing that. Are we? That's the question we need to ask. But in fact, when we talk about revolution, it must be a very sudden and disrupt change. So it's not very, something that we can slowly adapt this kind of situation. What is Industry 4.0? This is something, the graph that we have seen many times, in the era of physical things, when it's the era of steam engine, water, that's the thing that help you in the factory, But the moment electricity have been introduced, the way that the manufacture thing is going to be more mass production. It will help the whole assembly line. The number of people will be reduced, because of using automation most likely. So automation, when it takes place in the era of 3.0, when electronics have been introduced, new chipsets and the internet have been introduced, we have changed another way of doing things. That was the days in 1969, 70s and all that. But now, what we are seeing is that we are talking about cyber-physical things. When you no longer feel that the physical world and the cyber world is now being converged together. But what's the relationship with Society 5.0? If you take a look at this is the Japanese term. They always call it Society 4.0. That's how they view it. But they view it based on how the culture changes. In the Society 1.0, that's when the times of hunting society, that was the old days of the society just to find food by hunting. But when the society changes, they use agriculture, so that we call the Society 2.0. When they move towards the urban area, they become industrial society, factories are being built. But the information society, the 4.0, is when internet comes in. So this is the era that we are faced now, the 4.0. In 5.0 is what they call super smart society. Remember, in 4.0 of Society 4.0 in the Japanese term is that we are seeking out for information. The one that we are doing now. If you need information, you Google things, you find information, you go to any website and so on and so forth. But the 5.0 is more intelligent in such a way that you don't have to move. You don't have to go anywhere, but the information can go to you. So you are the center of the whole society, and the information will come to you based on your profile most likely. So that's the best part. But I have also my own term of what we call the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So the way that we live in. In 1.0, if you are in this era, you're using the physical tool, the manual, your hands, and so on and so forth. That is the era of 1.0. In the era of 2.0, as I mentioned to you, when you use electrical machines in your house, It's all electrical based. But in 3.0, automation comes in, internet is there. That's what we are doing now in our daily life. Okay. In 4.0, it's all about intelligence. Data is now being used in a different kind of information, using AI to do to derive more insights, to do prediction, and so on and so forth. So the technology in IR 4.0 is a lot. So it depends on which industry you are. You might have a different technologies within the 4.0. The World Economic Forum, sometimes in 2014, 2015, they have defined these 12 technology pillars. It can be from space technologies, 3D printing, AR, VR, IoT, neural technology, geoengineering, biotech, blockchain. So these are the technologies defined. But it doesn't mean that we have to follow exactly what the technologies being defined in the World Economic Forum. In Malaysia, for example, when we launched the Industry Forward, these are the pillars of technology which is important in the manufacturing sector, in the factory sector, the manufacturing whole value chain. So you might require big data analytics, you might require AI, augmented reality to support you, a simulation, advanced material, additive manufacturing, or they call it 3D printing. You have robots, you have Internet of Things, might be even cloud computing. But that is required in the manufacturing sector. Unfortunately, when we launched the Industry Forward, we didn't take a look at the whole sector, the whole industry in Malaysia, because there are other industries. You name it, agriculture, you have healthcare, you have financial, education. So different sectors have different needs of the technology. So do you think that these technologies that being defined in Industry Forward will apply in your area? It might not. So for example, in construction 4.0, when I was involved in this building this blueprint, they also trying to find what are the technologies which is related to them. So they have defined 12 technologies, for example, which is not related to the Industry Forward. For example, the prefabrication and modular construction, and then they have this building information system, advanced building material. These are the technologies meant for the construction sector. So they need that. That's become the core technology or the technology pillars for them in construction. So if you have that within the education sector, maybe it's different. Facilities management, I'm not sure whether it's the same or not, but some of the technologies can be the same. And then we take a look at the question of, okay, now we are talking about, but do you really understand all this 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or do you know exactly where you are now? If you are in your organization, in which era are you in? That is the biggest question that we ask. So which industrial revolution? It's simple. As I mentioned just now, the definition that I've made earlier, using from manual physical things, electrical, internet, and also data, which is more intelligence, that will define where you are. For example, the way that we cook. I will ask you the way that we cook. In which era are we in? In which era are you in? Try using the cooking technology, so-called. So if you are using stove like this, fire, charcoal, arang batu, I'm sure you're in the era 1.0. You don't call it era 4.0. So most likely you are in this era. But if you're using an oven which is just electrical based, that's it. It's a 2.0. I'm sure you have that. I have one of this, but after a while it dah rosak, so I'm not using that anymore. And then the 3.0. Remember, your microwave oven can program it, so electronics is there, so you can easily cook and That's what we are now, most likely. But if you are in the 4.0, don't tell me you are having this kind of technology. You can print your food. Are you there? This is 3D printing food. You can print your burger if you want to. Okay. So the way that we teach in the education sector, I'm now in UTMSPACE. So let's take a look at how how we educate ourselves and how we teach people. Are we still using the blackboard or the whiteboard? That is 1.0. Are we still using OHP projector, just transparency slides, and still write with ink and all that? You are 2.0. And I believe what we are doing now in webinar style, we are 3.0, right? But how do you teach the students in the era of 4.0? If you're using augmented reality, you're using virtual reality, might be using a robot even to become the teacher. Might be that is the era of 4.0. So that is how we teach. The way that we transact, most likely all of us are quite more advanced lah. But some in areas where in the rural areas, for example, you are still using the physical money. Even us also still using physical money. But most likely during that transaction, there must be a machine, a cash machine that can exchange the money and all that, cashier. But then you might use even 3.0, you're using credit card. That's the era 3.0. But with the 4.0, you're using this method of e-wallet. You might use transaction using IoT, using a wearable device, Apple Pay, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, if you take a look at this video, which industrial revolution is this factory in? So look at it very carefully. They're using machines, electrical most likely, automation. I'm not sure they use internet or not, but then they still use physical things. Okay, just trying to do this. So, which era are we in that kind of industry? That kind of factory. Sometimes it's within the. We still love not to have a total automation. We still use our physical hands to do that. Because I remember the days when recently, one organization. What we did is that if you go to to get that document approved, you have to go to that agency and get approved manually. It's very fast. A couple of minutes, you can do that. But when they turn to digital, they said, no longer we can approve that using physical. You don't have to come to the building, to the office. We go online. But the moment they go online, it took us 1 week to get the document approved. So you just imagine, because of certain things that you need to do, you have to send the documents to get approved, and then you send another document to get it approved. So there is a manual intervention within that time frame. So instead of making it more efficient, it become more inefficient. So one of the most important part of Industrial Revolution 4.0 is we are talking about digital information or digital transformation, and it is it is required. Before you even go to the stage of digital transformation, the digitization part is important. Meaning to say that all the analog information have to turn into digital. Yeah? So the content is all that, papers now becoming in digital form, instead of now it becomes spreadsheet, whatever. So at least it's in digital format. But the digital transformation is the way that the workflow and all that must be seamless. So when we ask the whole industry, even before the industry forward have been doing what we call the industry assessment, IR 4.0 industry forward assessment, we asked the industry and they said we are 2.7. Not at 3 totally. 3 means you are totally online. But a lot of organizations are not online yet. Some of them, even the machines are not online. Some of their transaction is not online. So we are the middle between electrical and internet. So once we have online, everything is online, then we have digital transformation happen. And then only when we can move towards the industry, where we talk about all these new technologies that come in to support the era of 4.0. So we cannot run away with this technology called IoT, which is in my area is. But IoT is also something that is quite complex in a way that because not a single organization can come in and deploy an end-to-end solution. They doesn't have all the skills within that organization. So normally they will have to work with other parties, other partners to ensure that they have a full end-to-end solutions. For example, there are 4 main components for you to have this IoT. One, you must have the physical sensors or the devices. You can have a sensors or you can have actuators, the one that can control it back. And these sensors in digital form can be many kind of sensors. But in analog, you might have 5 sensors only. But in digital, you might have 18, 20 sensors that you have. So in your smartphone, there's a lot of sensors inside there. And then the second part is that the way that you want to send your data out from the sensors. It can be on the physical, fixed, or it can be wireless. But most likely it's going to be wireless because a lot of sensors are now battery-based. So less for you battery consumption. It can be placed anywhere. The only way that you want to send data must be through wireless. So wireless communication technologies is so many. So you have the one that is on premise, which is you can control them, but the one which is outside, most likely the main service provider will have to control. So in the local part, you might have like a body area network, RFID, Zigbee. Then you might have Bluetooth, you might have local Wi-Fi, local area network. So that is within your control. You can build it easily. But the moment you go out, you might need 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. With the new technologies that for IoT, there is new IoT network, what we call the LP1. The LP1 is the low-powered wireless area network. Technologies like NB-IoT, it's a license-based. It's meant for the telco who launch it. So Maxis, Celcom, Digi, TM, they have that kind of NB-IoT, the narrowband IoT. And then we have what we call LoRa. So you can build your own infrastructure. So LoRa is another network, it's unlicensed band. And then Sigfox, it's by Sigfox Alliance. Xparanti, one of the operator who manage that, because it's, the back-end system is being managed by Sigfox infrastructure. But the front end, you can build your own Sigfox nodes and all that. The reason why this LP1 is there is because of the nature of battery consumption, the nature of you want to have wider coverage, and the nature of this data that you have sent is only small bytes of data. Yeah, so that's why you use LP1. And then from there, you must have a platform for you to collect and aggregate all the sensors data. So then you need a middleware. The middleware is the one that aggregates all your sensors from different kind of protocols, different kind of messaging format, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So to make it easily, you must have a platform to do that. You can build using your server, web server, but it only maybe can cater one server, but it cannot manage multiple devices, thousands of devices, maybe millions of devices. And from there, what do you do with the data that has been collected on the platform? Then you require the skills of the people who build applications. They can extract the data, create an applications, or they can extract the data, they can do machine learning, or they can do some big data analytics to do some prediction. So you can have insights of the data. So that's why it's important. And then you take a look at these challenges that we're facing. Yeah, because a lot of times we say that, okay, now it's good. I mean, I love this new technology. I love IR 4.0. I know I want to IoTize my organization or want to transform my organization. But sometimes it's also very difficult for us to move in. As an end user, as a technology provider, they might have different expectation. One of the things that IoT adoption is quite slow. One thing is that the new business model, or maybe the business case itself, understanding the right business case. So business case means you need to identify what are the main problems that you're facing. Yeah, and then the new business model, how you want to charge your customers. You have to rethink the way that you do the processes. Sometimes, previously, without the technology, you might have 100 processes with human in between intervention. But with technology, you might reduce that by 50%. You no longer require human intervention in between, right? And then the talents within the organization, you are still lacking because new technology comes in. You need to think, rethink, and relearn. And then the change management needs to happen because it requires different kind of tasks being assigned to different people. Yeah, transformation process, which sometimes people resist to do that. The culture within the organization also might be a big challenge for you. The new generation, who are the Gen Z, the Gen Y, and against the Gen X and the baby boomers, they might have different thinking. And then because of if you are bigger organizations, you work in silos, that might have difficulty because IoT have to go across all the different organizations. You need to break down the silos. And of course, because of new technology, you most likely need to have some pilots to get the buy-in. Yeah. Another thing is that because this mindset thinking, I was always mention this because, if you have that mindset thinking of, I'm comfortable with my area of business, my operations, why should I change? It's the same thing when you take that particular jump of bungee jumping. You stand at the edge, you feel comfortable, or you feel scared, you don't want to take that particular jump. So how do you jump? The easiest way is that you need a little push. That push will make you jump. So what exactly that push us? Yeah, what exactly that push us? Previously, we do a lot of organization. We had a lot of talks, trying to convince end users, and finally, something happened. The one that pushed us is actually the COVID-19, which is last year happened in 2020, when everything have to be online. There's no way for you to engage people and communicate people without technology. So education have to be, education, transaction, everything not online. So you want to buy things, everything going to be online. That is the real push that we require. And Alhamdulillah, maybe this year, what we're seeing this year in My Digital, have another framework to see that how we can address the gap. Yeah, we have seen, right? Remember last year, suddenly education has been disrupted. It's because internet access is not. What we are thinking is everyone have internet access, but unfortunately, the internet access is still required with a certain speed to get a better, communications between two parties. Right? If you need video, at least you must have 2 megabit. What can you do with 100 kilobit per second with a video? There's none. So that's why education has been disrupted a lot of times. Yeah. So what we are seeing now is that IoT is one of the 4 core fundamental technologies, but as I mentioned to you just now, 1999, there was Kevin Ashton mentioned to that during that time. Only now, 2014 and above, we are seeing that coming in. The reason being is that it's not only that we have been talking about that, but there's certain fundamentals, building blocks, which is not available or is not cheap enough to do that. So for example, when we talk about the hardware now shrinks and more powerful. The power of your smartphone is the same power, computing power, that send people to the moon. Yeah, so that's the same power that you have. And then the connectivity is pervasive. Everywhere you go, you can have access to internet. Software development, so simple, drag and drop sort of things. Sometimes the line of code can be reduced very short. I remember the days when we want to draw a single box is also long lines of code. Now it's a very simple code. And then Moore's law, the number of transistors double every 18 months to 24 months. That's why you see that new chipsets are being introduced every 18 months to 24 months. So Apple introduced the new breakthrough, for example, new phones, new computers and all that. And Metcalfe's network law, as you know, the network effects when everything is being connected. So tons of data is going to be generated. So the reason being why we need things to be connected, because we can imagine 20 billion or 50 billion things can be connected to the internet. Yeah, anything that you can imagine of. But there must be a reason. The reason is that either you want to know the condition of the assets, or you want to sense the environment within your particular assets. If you have the assets which is very important for you, if you feel that you want to maintain and monitor that, then you put sensors within that. For example, if you are transporting goods, which need to understand the quality of the goods. We have been sending our Pfizer vaccine and all that. We not want to show the condition of the temperature and all that. We might need to monitor that. It's very expensive asset. Foods, transportation. You know where the whereabouts of the foods. Temperature, humidity. Human, the health is the asset. You want to monitor the assets. How do you do that? You might need a wearable device that can monitor them continuously, right? The heart rate, the blood pressure, and so on. Yeah? Your house is an asset. You want to ensure that it's quietly safe. Maybe your bus, also an asset. You want to know, or your vehicle, where they are, the location of your vehicle. Your parking lot might be, or maybe the city's parking lot is also as an asset for the city officials, local councils. They want to know the usage of their facilities. So if that asset is important, you can attach sensors to that. Yeah. So now the question is, how do IR 4.0 or IoT? It doesn't matter whether it's IoT or IR 4.0. It has the same thing. So we take a look at the 7M of the whole businesses. It can transform you that. Yeah? Technologies like this is wonderful things. Yeah? So the first thing is that about manpower. If you feel that you have unnecessary manpower, you can reduce the manpower, or you feel that you want to increase the productivity of manpower, then you can use technology like this to do that. Yeah. Remember the days when we have problems of our electrical bill last year because no one is taking reading our bill meter. Suddenly we found out that 3 months bill is something like this. But what if we have a remote meter reading? So monthly it will continuously update you and bill you. Okay? So then it can reduce the number of people moving around, in cases like this. So becoming more efficient. And then we take a look at the materials. If you have expensive materials, you have logistics you want to send from another warehouse to another warehouse, you want to keep track the conditions of your goods to ensure that your warehouse is always in stock, not out of overstock or understock. So you have to make sure that you can tag your assets, the goods inside the warehouse, yes, and the condition of the assets. So we have been doing this also for a number of customers, warehouse monitoring, because they don't have ways for them to monitor the condition of the assets. Suddenly the aircon is down and then the whole goods got, expired and not expired, being destroyed, And then if you have expensive machines, you want to know the utilization of the machine so that you can use it optimally, rather than this one machine is only 10% of usage, that machine is 100% of usage. Maybe you need to cater and schedule the usage patterns, for example, or you can outsource, or you can sell this the unused time, for example. If you take a look at the machines, you can understand, even can predict the maintenance of the machines. Instead of using scheduled maintenance, now you can have predictive maintenance. Before it breaks down, it can trigger you. It reduces the number of errors, always maintaining and looking at if there is any abnormality within the machine operations. And then we take a look at the method. As I mentioned to you just now, if your method is very lengthy, too much human intervention and all that, you can reduce all these red tapes, becoming more agile and becoming more faster and efficient to do that. And then we take a look at the market. If you feel that your market is limited to local market, now you're able to enter more bigger market. The same product that you design can be meant for other people who have a similar problem in other countries. It's a similar problem that you have, that you can design, so you can expand your reach globally. And then we take a look at the money. We feel that, hey, I have my products which is limited and already stagnant, or we want to expand it further. You want to create new revenue streams, so you can create new products with that. You can create new business models, you can save even costs for you. And finally, if you can extract all this information, because management, if they want to make decision making, it's not only for one single source. The best part is that if you can gather from different sources, and these sources can be from your IT database, or even from your machine, or from your assets, it comes together and display it to you. You can have a more transparent data that being put forward to you. It can make decision making process faster and in real time. So when we build solutions like this, you feel that, hey, if I want to move to industry 4.0, IoT is one of the things, but even IoT itself have its own maturity phases. You can implement the whole 4 phases of IoT maturity, the fourth, the most advanced one, or you can start with a very simple step. Okay, you can start with a simple, what we call monitoring, phase 1. You can start with, you put actuators, you can control it, and then you can put more sensors, you can gather more data, you can optimize it, and then finally, if your machines and your assets are talking to each other, you can make it autonomous. So for example, machines like this can help you in terms of vehicle tracking. So you have put just simple GPS, you have an app that can monitor your car. That's one business, monitoring your car. But how many of us have a GPS inside the car that you can monitor? Might be you don't have. The only thing that you have is only a mobile phone that can monitor you if you're in the car. Then, for example, if your car is being stolen, you need some ways for you to control it. You need to immobilize the car. Someone stole it, you see you have been triggered, and suddenly it can immobilize the car. So you can have another business called vehicle security using IoT. And then you might need to put sensors that can tell us the battery, the tire, the machine, your petrol, your engine, temperature, so on and so forth. So many machines, parts of the car can be monitored, and then you will know whether the wear and tear of the car. Yeah. So instead of having a 10,000, 20,000 kilometer average scheduled maintenance, you might say that I'm a very safe driver. I can send it a little bit later. It will not break down because I'll be monitoring that. Yeah. So if you're a reckless driver, instead of that, you might be sending your car within another 5,000 kilometers. Yeah. So it can tell you the best routes, optimize your engine and all that. But if the car can talk to each other, can talk to the other infrastructures, the roads and all that, then it becomes autonomous. That's what we're facing now, like Tesla. So this, when this happens, it disrupts another business. You know, a lot of organizations are going to be affected. But what happened is that, you know, remember when we talk about disruption, before Uber came in, Grab came in, everyone is, only certain taxi drivers are the drivers. But Uber, Grab have transformed it. They said everyone can become a taxi driver if you want to register with them. But then when driverless taxi comes in, it disrupts again. No one can become a taxi driver. So what they have predicted is that in US, for example, they have predicted 10% of the jobs going to be affected by autonomous vehicles. Anything that you think that, you know, logistics, taxi, buses, anything that on the road, it becomes driverless, it impacts the whole jobs, situation. But do you think that's all? The taxi can become driverless. What happens if the taxi fly? This is another disruption. So how do you take a taxi that can fly? So this is something that we normally feel that we need to do something different. I will explain to you a bit later. Then we take a look at how mobility and insurance, when they combine, they can make different business model. So remember the days that your insurance, when you pay your insurance, it's always the same. Why? Everyone is paying the same insurance every year in, every year out. Why can't it be different? I'm a different kind of driver. My risk should be lower. The guy is, very risky driver. Their insurance can be high. So what happened is that they said, I want to know your ABC of the driver. So ABC means the way that you accelerate, the way that you brake, the way that you corner. Before that, what the government says that I can change the insurance based on gender, male or female, based on age, whether you old or you are young. So if that's the case, is that the best way to measure? Because some female drivers may be reckless or maybe not. Some younger drivers may be reckless or maybe not. So what if you have a better way to measure it? So you put sensors within the car, it can tell us the way that you drive. So kat sana, one of the company in Malaysia, they have built an app called DriveMark. You download it, you launch the app while you are driving, it tells you your behavior of your driver. So 82% is quite good. 100% most of the time, most of the time 100% lah. This is an old example. But if you have 49%, maybe your roads are very, at that time my roads going back to my house is, zigzag and all that is under renovation. So it causes, so with that, you can use this number. What their business model is that you can use this rating, because it plus the ABC plus S. S is the speeding limit. So if you have always lower than your speeding limit, you have a different rating. So you can show to the insurance company, and you might have a different insurance. So with these new technologies, it requires us to have this trial. It's important for us to do the trial. That's the reason why, like NTIS, the National Technology Innovation Sandbox, which is being launched by the government to test technologies which have not been used in anywhere, because sometimes you need to understand the regulatory or these four factors, and not only regulatory, these four factors. One, you got to understand how the technology matured. For example, the one that I mentioned, that flying taxi, the battery can last for 30 minutes. Why? Because of the payload, the size, and all that. So it lasts 30 minutes. So how secure it is? So within 30 minutes, you need to land first lah, while you're flying. And then secondly, you need to see the market adoption. how people perceive these new services, whether they want to take a taxi which doesn't have any driver or not. Yeah, and then they take a look at the new business model. How you want to charge the customers? Is it based on subscription based, just the current one, or product or feature based, or even outcome based? Outcome based means that you pay a services which is meant to give you the outcome, the final outcome. Why do you buy a pump? The reason why you buy a pump is because you want to transfer volumes of water from A to B. But what if I don't charge you the pump, but I charge you the number, the volume? Yeah. So I have an IoT sensors that can measure the volume of water that being transferred. The moment you don't pump it, then you don't have to pay. You just only pump the volumes of water. So if you want to arrive in a certain location within less than 30 minutes, you take the flying taxi. Yeah. And then the policy and regulatory. So this is something is quite complex, which the government feels that the old policies maybe doesn't work. How do you define a vehicle, a car? What if the car can fly? There's no tire, it's only blades. Do you define that as a flying car? So who manages that? Is it the automotive, or is it the ground transportation, or the aviation? Where can you fly that drones? You cannot fly the drones which can go along in your house, neighborhood, and so on and so forth. So when you send parcels from one place to another place, is it in a specific route, or you can fly anywhere? So these are some of the things which we need to test it out. So policy and regulatory needs to change too. But we don't want policy and regulatory to stifle the innovation. Yeah? They can protect the citizens, the user, but they also want to encourage innovations to happen. And then we take a look at the IoT. One of the components which I mentioned to you just now is the platform, which what Favoriot is offering. So our technology, we just developed the third component. So in order for us to move and implement IoT solutions, normally we partner with different parties, the hardware parties, the application provider, application developer, or system integrator, or we can also develop some parts of the applications. But the best part of that, especially in cities, if you can blend information of sensors from different verticals of sensors or applications, or they can give you more meaningful data. You can blend data from home, health, transport. It gives different applications. You want to talk about safety of the end users in the house. You want to talk about waste and health of the individual, of the township and all that. You want to talk about the waste and also the transport. So you put different sensors and you can blend and create different applications. So this is one of the things that we would like to share with you, some examples that we have, a middleware that you can use. Okay, one of the things that I forgot to mention is that I'll give the slides. I'll put this later in the Facebook Live, the notes there. So if you come back after the presentation, you can see that, the link that you can download the slides. So a platform like this, what it does is that it offers a lot of things. It creates an ecosystem that helps the rapid development of any IoT applications. For you to easily onboarding all your sensors that you have, regardless from simple sensors from projects that you have, like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, or even commercial sensors that you want, and then it connects to the platform. It has mechanism to manage the devices. Yeah? So it is actually what we call a platform as a service. So you can own the data that is being sent to you, and you can create your own application. So there's API. We open up the API for developers to come in, who subscribe to the platform, connect their sensors, and create their own applications or create their insights. So we allow them to do that. So I don't know how many people have been doing that, but that's how we help them to increase it. So Alhamdulillah, up to today, we have about more than 109 countries using that. About more than 4,000 people from different application developers. So they come in as individuals, some organizations, and they build their own applications. Which we also, as I mentioned, I don't know what they have been building, because as a pass, we allow them to create their own applications. Yeah. So these are some of the sample applications that you can do. If you are in the environmental, smart weather monitoring, you can have water quality. That's what we have been facing now. For river, for flooding, for weather, and then for water meter monitoring, for measuring leakage and meter reading. Or if you want in a smart city, you know, you have applications that can manage your own data center to see the ambient temperature, and then look at the parking. Other than the internal parking, you might have the external parking, just boom gate, number counting of the cars going in and out, outdoor monitoring. You know, people feel smell. You know, recently that we have, you know, where at the treatment plant, you know, whether they control the smell. And then in the areas which is public spaces, to monitor the noise level and the pollution level. But if you have applications in the industry, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Asset monitoring, the tagging of your assets, and then temperature, humidity of a warehouse, power monitoring, and also the smart battery. So this can be in many applications. So yeah. Now, okay, some few last slides I'd like to share with you. For facility management, there are two examples I want to do. One is the hybrid IoT solution, which is not totally IR 4.0, but it's in between the 3.0 and 4.0. It's 3.5 lah. Yeah? So with this, what you can do is that, remember the days that you have a lot of complaints and people comes in many forms using social media. It goes haywire, very chaotic and all that. Now we have a better means for you to control that channel. Instead of going chaotic, having a WhatsApp to complain and you cannot track your situation, then this is the best way. Yeah, it must be user-centric so that user can make the report. It must be data-driven. It follows a specific workflow. It can be seen very, very open, collaborative, responsive, and also cost-effective and very transparent in that way. So you want that as the end user or the service provider. So this can be with operators or not. Yeah. So we just use a mobile app which has a camera and a GPS. That's two sensors that we have on a mobile phone, but the triggering process also needs a human touch lah. So you have a mobile app, take a photo, scan it, either take a photo, it will geotag the location of the problem, it will create a trouble ticket at the crowd sensing management platform. You can track it out. So the admin will escalate this to the field force. The field force will have an app, open it up. I know the exact location of the problem, and then it will just go to that particular place, solve the problem, take another photo. It will close the case. So once it's closed the case, once it's been approved, the user who made the report will see any notification in the mobile app itself. As a management, you have an insights, the graph that takes a look at your KPI, the people who respond to your problem, yeah, and how fast it been closed, how many problems have been. So let me share with you a video. Okay, another example is that what if you want to implement a purely an IoT solutions for your facility management? One of the things, an example of our customers that in a campus that they have multiple buildings, and some of the buildings are being equipped with a network hubs, and so it's between the IT people and the facility management people. Whenever there is a power down, they didn't know who actually is. When they receive a complaint from the end user saying that there's no network, is it a problem of network or is it a problem of the power? So when the IT goes there, they feel that it's not my issue, it's the power issue. So when it goes there, the facilities manager to look at the power is actually the IT issues. So the easiest way, we have a sensor which have also a GPS. It monitor the power source, a simple one. Whenever there is a power source fail, it will send alert using a telegram to both parties. Will tell you, and whether it's restored. Before it happens, you just go back to restore, and then it will solve the problem. So this is a very simple applications, but it solves them. It solves the problem of who owns, who can respond it fast. So it's important for them to actually serve the end customers. Yeah. So I think the last slide is just to show that where are we? So are we now the innovators who wants to adopt and embrace IR 4.0 technology at the very early stage to become the innovators, or the early adopters, or we have still struggling to get into the early majority where the mass is actually using this, or we feel that, okay, let's get the people, the rest of the organization, sector, industry, whatever, try it out first, I'll become the late majority, and then all the laggers. But because once this happens, a new technology will comes in and disrupt us again. So we don't want to spend a lot of money at the end of the technology lifetime. So I think with that, I'll like to say thank you. I would like to open this to the floor if there are any questions, and I would like to answer that. Okay. Okay. So the question is, why the development of the 5.0 society concept in our country is too slow compared to our neighboring country, Indonesia? Okay. I don't know much about Indonesia, but they have been adopting, especially like in smart cities, they have been adopting this quite fast. I give you an example, smart city, because I've been in that area before. What they have is that because their local authorities, the politicians and the local authorities have given a mandate for them to implement this, and if anyone who doesn't use and leverage the technology that they have built will get fired. That's one of the things. Yeah. So I think what we need, just now I mentioned about the 9 issues, that challenges that we are facing. So in order for us to move forward, sometimes I feel we have been doing education, academic education awareness for quite some time already. What we need now is execution. So one of the things is that when it comes to execution, they don't have a champion within the end user side to start off the game, to start off the whole thing. So they must have that. So they have to build that team within the organization and define the business plan. Then it's easier for people who's from the outside, technology provider, or the people who can assist them in building the end solution. Yeah. So previously it's all the mindset, but now it's no longer the mindset. So we are a little bit late because we have been doing too much education in the early days. When we started off the game, when we started off the IoT, our business is since 2014, 2015. But we feel that the industry is lacking talents. So we feel, where are the talents? So the talent is still in the universities. The universities are having still the old syllabus and all that. So we went back to the universities, helped them out. Now we are seeing the last 1 or 2 years, graduates with the skill is now there. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, okay. So most Malaysians are still low in awareness about R 4.0 and Society 5.0, especially at schools, the university levels. What needs to be done immediately? So as I mentioned to you just now, when we started off, it started off with the universities level, but now we are seeing this goes to the colleges. I've seen this the last 3 to 4 years. There are certificate in IoT by Polytechnic, and then there are diploma in IoT, that is in college community. And then there is degree in IoT in the universities. There is also masters in IoT. So in terms of the higher level, they have been doing that. In the schools wise, they have introduced IoT, but we didn't realize that. It's in the robots, in the drones and all that. It just used that case for the students to get excited about the technology. The moment they have get excited about robots and drones, then they would like to know what's happening inside the components of that big block. Yeah? You see in the US, for example, they introduced robots at the very early stage. We have been using robots but they have gone beyond the robots fighting among each other. That's the competition for robots. But they have used robots and also combined with autonomous car. They have big contest competition that can have autonomous car runs in deserts and all that. So from that's why you can see technologies being, you can see autonomous car now. You can see that they can command or control Mars robot at Mars at very far instead of having that in front of them. So they can control from anywhere. But we have to start from level, schools. And we have seen that some companies have introduced simple kits for even the kindergarten to understand about electronics. Next question is, how do you imagine Society 5.0 and development of smart cities, especially Greater KL project? Did you know that in Southeast Asia, Kuala Lumpur, in the last Smart City Index in 2020, Kuala Lumpur is number 2 in Southeast Asia after Singapore. Singapore is number 1 in Southeast Asia and in the world. Okay, Malaysia is number 2 in Southeast Asia, but number 54 in the world. So that's still very far. But of course, against other countries, they might have different things. But imagine this, it's not as simple like every city is easy for us to deploy technologies. Cities have their own DNA. DNA means their nature of their device network applications, how naturally they are. I give an example, greenfield area. Nothing is there, you build from ground up. It's easy. You can plan it out carefully, put your infrastructure, you can make decisions fast. But when it's brownfield cities, you just imagine the cities which are 100 years old, 200 years old. The decision-making process is going to be very complex, so many stakeholders, people are already there, infrastructure is already there. How we want to retrofit technologies within that particular place? So it's not that easy. So that's why countries which is very new, it's easy for us to build a smart society 5.0 or the smart city. But KL have its own challenges because it's an old city. All right. So we don't have any more questions. So again, I would like to mention to you, I will send the link to the slides after the presentation. You just go back. Yeah. But what I like to say is this. So in my final words is that whether we like it or not, IR 4.0 is going to be here. We have seen IR 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. They have shrunk in terms of the period from hundreds of years to 100 years, and then we are seeing that 50 years is going to be in place. It's going to be shorter because the era of IR 3.0 is from 1965, 68, so it's about 50 years. And maybe IR 4.0 is going to be maybe 25 years, shortened by half. What I imagine in IR 4.0 is that 3 things. This is my prediction. I'm just sharing. One of the things is that if there is a breakthrough in the food, the way that we can produce food. Secondly, the way that we generate power source, breakthrough, and the third one is the way that we break through in transportation. And I've seen these technologies being introduced in, for example, like Elon Musk. They have sent rockets, the SpaceX. His idea is going to be to Mars. He have transportation, hyperloop. Can send people maybe around the world within 6 hours. 6 hours he can send from here Kuala Lumpur to Buenos Aires. So that fast. So if you have that breakthrough, people can live anywhere. So the society can move. Instead of technology, now you can move the whole society, or you can form a new society under the sea or anywhere around the world, or even at the Mars. That's what I think Elon Musk is doing for his future. So thank you. With that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.